Are you a football fan? Have you ever found yourself wondering, what in the world was that ref thinking? Well, Mike D, the referee, is here to help you. Join me on Whistle Talk as I talk to professionals on the field and in the booth to help you understand what is going on inside the mind of a football official. All right, we're gonna
Remix.
edit those ones out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Whistle Talk. Here again, we got Mr. Daniel Chamberlain joining me tonight for rule number 3 as we continue with our series going through the NFHS Rulebook. But before we dive into that, just want to say a quick reminder for everybody as we get things rolling. If you're enjoying the show, please hit those like buttons, those subscribe buttons, follow Whistle Talk, follow Mr. Chamberlain there too. Let him throw out where you could find him. But you can find Whistle Talk on all the different podcast platforms. I'm having problems speaking tonight, and I also got to fire my producer if you heard my intro there. And unfortunately, I am my own producer.
Let's go.
So I am fired. But yeah, so if you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit all those fun things if you don't mind. Daniel joining us once again from the state where every other letter is a vowel, Mr. Oklahoma himself. How are you, sir?
Hey, we like our vowels down here. Hey, we enunciate.
Yeah.
We stretch words. It's the South.
It's almost like the Canadas. Hey, Canadas.
Hey. Yeah, not as bad as those guys. We're a lot meaner, too, I think.
Well, I don't know. Don't take their beer.
I am Coach Daniel Chamberlain, reside in Northeast Oklahoma. I do a couple podcasts, the football coaching podcast with Joe Daniel. That's where I got my start. You can go over and find those on all the favorite podcatchers. Those episodes come out on Thursday, and then you can go over to Joe's YouTube and find if you want to watch them. If I'm a big podcast watcher. I like to watch. I'm a big Joe Rogan guy. I like to watch his. I like to watch you, Mike. Anyway, his are on YouTube the next like Monday or something. And then I do the Coaching 101 podcast with Kenny Simpson, and we are live live usually Tuesday mornings about 8:30 if you can catch it on any of our social media platforms. And then we drop those episodes on Sunday mornings about 6 a.m. And then I get them on Kenny's YouTube eventually. They get over there. I think I might be a week or so behind, but you can go find them. And I usually drop them about a week or so after. So if you're a watcher, you can watch those too.
Yeah, and I was sitting there last night watching the one episode that you guys were recording last night. That was a great one. You're tugging on my old playing day strings with the old lineman guys. So
yeah, we had Schiff on, one. Man. Coach Schiffman from up there in Wisconsin, and he's super good dude too. Great guest. We had a good time. So
yeah, I had to throw some questions at him and just help me still my coaching aspects that I got going on still with my son. So got to get that power run correctly, and I'm always looking for something new.
When
you're looking to weaponize the rules, I'm looking to weaponize the offense more. So it's all good stuff. We're all here for each other.
There we go.
So tonight's episode, if you've been following along, we've been going through the NFHS Rulebook. We've already hit up rules 1 and 2, and tonight we're going to start talking about and should complete rule 3, which is going to a lot of stuff we've actually kind of touched on. So it's not super new, but we do definitely want to dive into a couple of key elements that I know some of the coaches out there are sometimes confused. And again, sometimes the officials make the confusion themselves too. So rule 3 talks about our periods, our times, and our substitutions. And you can see here, we got our list that we're going to kind of go through. So without further ado, Daniel, I'll throw you the nice, easy lob ball here for slide number 1, sir.
Here we go. We're talking lengths of periods and halftime. Rule 3-1, 48 minutes or 4 12-minute quarters or periods if you want to call them. So 48 minutes total. 1 minute intermission between first and second and the third and fourth period. So between quarters, not the halves. And then halftime by rule between 10 and 20 minutes. 15 is standard. In practice, the home school decides the length. Obviously, if you got halftime homecoming at halftime, or Right, there's always a special event. Big one we do down
Always.
here is the Veterans Nights. Like we have a veterans, well, I don't know what else to call it, just Veteran Night, and
Well,
we'll
that's
bring all the
that's a
local veterans in and thank them. We do all sorts of neat stuff in the South, but and then obviously both coaches need to talk that out, which we've been really good the last couple of years everywhere I've been about the head coaches having a conversation. We don't even flip the coin live anymore, right? Like you're going out to, it's already been done in the locker room or in the whatever, and it's just for
oh,
show at that point.
no, we are still doing the live coin flip, but one thing that we will talk about is I'm going to try to get what the coaches want before I let a 16-year-old kid make a decision that could mess up a game for him.
For
So
sure, for
we
sure.
try to figure all those things out. But yeah, you're talking about our length of time here, kind of standard stuff here. There can be some adjustments, obviously, as you talked about homecomings, and it seems like when homecomings happen, we get them every single week in the middle of the season for the next 5 weeks. And we've had a 40-minute halftime once that everybody started coming out and pulling muscles afterwards. But
Oh, I'm sure.
wasn't anything good like what you got going on with the veteran stuff. This was just your homecoming that was dragged on and on and on. But a couple things we do got to hit on. The last one here is the warm up period. It is mandatory that we have to give 3 minutes warm up. So as soon as both teams come onto the field, you'll see the referee give the wind up to the clock. The clock should be set at 3. More so coming out of the halftime type of scenario, we're getting
For
that.
sure.
So give each team an opportunity to get a good warm up in.
And is that mandatory after like weather delays and such? I know that we generally do that, but is that in the rule book anywhere, or is that just
So
kind
typically
of
after our weather delays, we're going to at least give them 3 minutes, but we're going to talk it over with the coaches and we're going to try to give them a little bit more just to make sure because of that injury factor. And if there is a weather delay, the field's usually not in the greatest shape. So, but yeah, they are going to get at least a minimum of that 3 minutes on any type of weather delay. But again, usually go to each coach and coach 5 minutes, 10 minutes. What do you guys need? And just let each side know. The 1 minute intermission between quarters, that one it can be very vague depending upon how good your crew is that you're getting to, because we have to change our chains. We got to flip flop chains and different things like that. Also, it's everybody getting a drink. You get a hot day, we're going to extend that. So a lot of these intermission type of numbers are going to be kind of varied depending upon situation.
good.
So,
That's how it should be, right?
yep. And here's our little chart that we got going on here that kind of just reiterates what we're talking about. So it's Rule 3-1 game clocks and time. So pretty standard stuff. Again, halftime, we're going to try to give the teams the 15 minutes, but we try to give them the 15 minutes when they get to the locker room. And then here in Jersey, we're typically going to go and we send our deep wings to go and retrieve the coaches and retrieve the teams and give the knock on the door. Because if not, sometimes we're out on the field waiting for one team or the other, and a little gamesmanship can happen that we don't really want to have happen.
There we go. So real quick, just I know you said, hey, let's go quick on this one, but I got questions.
No,
So
you're good. Absolutely.
number one, I saw your timeout is 1 minute. Is that by a clock? Is that just the gut of feel of the ump? How's that timed?
So it is supposed to be by a clock. Again, one of our deep wings are who's in charge of our game clock. They're supposed to be the ones and kind of give you a 30-second warning or 15-second warning, depending upon the crew that you're with. We like to give you like, hey, you got 15 more seconds, so give it a little toot. And then the short wings are going to be in the huddle and kind of go from there. But if you get a timeout and one of the coaches wants to talk to the referee about something, again, we're going to give at least that minute. But sometimes you get that timeout late in the game and maybe a blowout type game, and they're calling a timeout because they just want to stop the clock to make a substitution. And then they're like, hey, we just want to sub, and then we'll just wind it quickly. But yeah, in the book, it is a minute. But again, there are a lot of variables. And again, your weather, your heat, different things like that. Sometimes we're giving them an official's timeout because of the heat and different things like that. So,
And then last question kind of has to deal with that halftime. And it's two-part. One, if I'm the visiting team and I disagree with the amount, kind of what can I do there as a coach? Maybe they're saying, hey, we just want 10 minutes and get back out here. And I'm like, no, my guys need 12, 15, 20, whatever I want. what can I do? And the second part to that is if I just say I'm not going to follow that and I just stay in the locker room, what's the true penalty? And at what point is it actually enforced?
So we will have a delay game penalty. So I'll jump to question 2 first. That you will get a delay game penalty, and that's typically if things are going to be egregious. Now we've had some guys throw a flag when they've had both teams standing on the sideline and the band's taking too long to get off and they're delaying the game. But yeah, that's not it's not what it should be in that scenario. So we want to get both teams out there, give them the 3 minutes, get them warmed up, and get them going. So if your team's refusing to come on out, we do have the right then to start winding that clock, or just hit them with the delay game penalty and go from there. And the kickoff is going to happen. The opening kickoff is going to happen 15, well, not 15 yards, 5 yards from where it originally should have, kicking or receiving, depending upon what the scenario is. The first question, say the first question again. I blanked.
Oh, yeah. If I just am the visiting coach and I disagree with the time and I need more time, or I guess if I want it to be shorter, I don't know. If I just disagree with the time and we can't come to an agreement,
Okay.
how's that mediated?
So it's typically going to be by the home team and typically by the site supervisor pregame. They're going to kind of give us what's going on. And if they're having an extended type of halftime, they should notify the other team before they even arrive so that they can kind of mentally prepare of what's going on. Shortened aspect, only time we've really shortened it is going to be because of weather. If both teams know that we got bad weather that's rolling in, we might say,
Okay.
hey, coach, are you guys good with 10 minutes? Different things like that. But I'm a big proponent of the high school band. I love high school bands. I love them in the atmosphere of playing and different things
For
like
sure.
that. Like I truly enjoy the high school band. But I will also say that I have seen some high school bands that are a little bit excessive with their halftime performances. And so things like that, we try to keep to a minimum because we don't want the injury factor of the kids getting stiff, the kids getting tight and things like that. So, but if a team comes out and every single week they're like, hey, we have a 25-minute halftime show, we're going to be like, no, you don't. Not anymore. You don't. You got your 15 to 20 minutes. So have your band director speed up the show a little bit. But if it's for a special occasion, like what you were talking about, your senior night, your homecomings, different things like that, everybody's pretty lenient with it because typically the other side's going to have one of their own place too. So
Right. Okay. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to extend that question so long, but
nope, that's what we're here for. We got to get all these things out. So make sure that everybody's on the right page. So we got our length of period and halftime. We got some notes here. And again, agreement with both coaches and officials. Periods may be shortened for emergency situations and games can be terminated. I'll give you an example of game being terminated. We had a game with two rivals, to say the least, and two areas that, well, I'll be completely blunt. Two areas where it's a lot of gang issues that are going on.
for sure.
And there were some gang issues that were going on prior to the game. The game started getting a little bit out of hand for one team. And then we had a pick six where it was just making it, there was a cheap shot behind the play. We had already ejected one other player from it. Now you had a pick six. There was about a minute and a half left, and our white hat just kept his arm winding, even though it wasn't in the rule at that point in time. And he's like, "It's over. We're winding it, coach. Don't even bring him out for kickoff. We're going to let the clock wind down." And both coaches were okay with it at that point in time because they knew that it was about to get ugly, and so we kind of shortened the game in that aspect. Games can be shortened due to weather delays, different things like that. Games have been called, and that's one I don't want to touch on because that one is a very touchy one. But if you get a lightning, technically you're waiting that half an hour for every lightning strike that happens. So you got to wait, and every time it happens, it's that clock resets to another half an hour. So you're going back and forth with it, to a point that, okay, we could say, hey, we're postponing the conclusion of this game till tomorrow, to whenever we can get it in weather-wise. But I have seen where games have just been, okay, it's 30-0 right now. This game's over. So it was a touchy one, but eventually both parties did agree to it because it wasn't nothing good was truly going to come out of it.
For sure.
Uh, so again, weather conditions, we got to clear the fields. Everyone's got to get out. We have lightning sirens at some schools. I'm sure in Oklahoma, you guys have different sirens for different type of weather elements that we
Oh,
here in Jersey don't
that's
have to deal
super.
with.
Yeah, the loud lightning strike buzzer is the big one that most stadiums have got nowadays. And then what's it like? That one's weird because I think it's like 15 miles.
Yeah. Yep.
It seems like it's a really and so it hits way before the storm gets there, and then way after the storms roll past, and then of course this is Tornado Alley, baby. So we got tornado sirens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the one that we don't have to worry about too much here in New Jersey, even though we did have a tornado warning today, which is ironic.
There you go.
But so yeah, so our weather conditions. I mean, now with most of the schools, not all the schools, but a good majority of schools now having the turf, they're doing whatever they can to try to get the game in that night if they can, or that afternoon, whatever it is, because well, just the logistics behind getting two high school teams in one spot at the same time again to redo it is sometimes can be a logistical nightmare for everybody involved. All right. So as we were just talking about, there's our weather exception, especially with halftime. Coaches can mutually agree, but we still must have that mandatory 3-minute warm up. So, I mean, shoot, we had one game where the coaches stayed in the end zone, didn't even want to go inside. They said, "All right, how quickly can we do it, Coach? We'll put 3 minutes on there. Go talk to your team. Go talk to your team. We'll get it rolling as soon as you guys are done." And we continued. I think we had like a 6-minute halftime. But both coaches,
that's crazy.
Yeah, both coaches knew what was going on. I want to say it was a consolation type game, so it didn't have any playoff bearings or anything like that. So
for sure.
All right, Daniel and I were talking about this one here, the coin toss. So referee and umpire here in New Jersey. And now each state might have a little bit of a different mechanic with it. I'm not sure if it actually states this one in the book on who brings them out, but the referee and umpire escort the captains to midfield. Now, actually, we wait at midfield and the players come out themselves. You're not allowed to have more than 4 captains in uniform, and everyone else needs to be outside the playing field, which to us will sometimes allow alternate captains, different people like that to come out to either the top of the numbers, maybe even as far as the hash marks, especially with those senior nights. And then you're always going to have different exceptions where if it's an honorary captain or something like that. We had a young man who got severely injured, and it was his first day back on campus, and he came out as the 5th captain. He was in a wheelchair, but like we're not saying no to that kid. I mean, heck, you got to be some kind of stupid and black-hearted individual to say no, he can't come out. But yeah, so there's always exceptions to it. Winner of the coin toss. Now we're always going to go, and I think the Pittsburgh Steelers did us all a solid with this one. Is we are having the captain say heads or tails before we toss the coin. We are throwing the coin up into the air, but we're announcing what each team is called or what the team was called. Then we're going to toss it up in the air. I like to let it hit the ground so that all parties can see it, because I have seen some referees that have dropped it or fumbled the coin and then it lands the opposite way. So I'm letting it go to the ground. And then on a winning, we're asking them what their options are. And there are 3 options: to kick, to receive, and to defer. And we are only giving them receive or defer, because that's what a good referee is going to do. Because if the kid says they want to kick, that means they're going to kick off first half and second half. So we
because
are
the
not.
option goes to the second team, right?
Yep. So the second half option would go to the losing team. So if the winning team says kick, well, in the second half, the losing team is going to say, we want to receive. So you've now just kicked off twice. So we are not even going to give them that option, because that is where that 16, 17-year-old can make that mistake. And a good referee is not going to allow that to happen. And unfortunately, we have seen it happen where teams have kicked off twice. We've seen it where the coaches said, no, we want to kick off twice for whatever the reason is.
Yes,
so they do have that option. Yep.
We have seen that, and it generally is in terrible weather when the field is muck. No one's moving the ball, because that means I basically get to start on defense with you at your own 20 25, whatever, and I know you're not moving the ball. So I get a short field as soon as I
Yep.
stop you on defense. So that very much so that is a tactical thing you can do.
Yeah, it's not common, but again, typically before the game and our pre-conference with the head coaches, I like to say, "Hey, coach, if you win the toss, what are you guys doing?" So try to get it a little bit beforehand, so I have it written down on my card. Now the captains will come out and change it, but we're just trying to reiterate that we know everything that's going on. And you sure you want to kick, but again, if the kid says we want to kick, we're gonna be like, no, you want to defer, and then we'll look over at the coach. Kick? No, defer. Okay, so we're still going back to the coach with that one.
For sure.
So again, your coin toss options: kick, receive, what goal to defend. So after one team wins it, now we're going to go to the other team and see which goal they want to defend or which way they want to kick. Each crew has a little bit different nuance on how they say it, but then we'll have the captains put their backs to their sidelines that they are going to be defending. We're going to tap on the captain's shoulders that have won the toss and signal to the press box side that they want to receive, where they want to defer, and then we'll go over to the other side and signal what they're doing, kicking, receiving, and then we'll have them shake hands once again and go play football from there.
So just because now I'm interested, I can actually choose to just defend an end zone, right? If let's just say weather is chaotic and I don't care who gets the ball, can I just pick? I don't care if I'm kicking or receiving. I want to defend that end zone. Can that be one of my choices?
Yeah, I can. Again, I don't know, because then you're probably going to end up kicking the ball off twice in that same scenario.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, yes, you can. So, and the losing team does not have the option to defer their choice. So if you say defer, we can't come back and say defer if we've lost. No, go back and forth. It's not like Uno where you can throw that the reverse card at you.
Reverse. I'm going to defer too.
So we'll go from there. So our coin toss is going to start again. There we go. Same goes for defending the goal. So like we said, the starting of the period, the game begins with the coin toss. The second half starts with whatever the outcome of the coin flip determined starts the second half. So typically now we're going to get the coaches coming out, because if you won the toss and you received in the first half, coming out that you're going to be kicking off. We're going to see which way you want to kick, or vice versa. If the team knows that they're receiving, because that's going to be their choice, I want to find out which way you want to kick, because now in the second half it will play a little bit more predominant, especially as the game gets late, for your field goal kickers and different things like that.
So it says here, second and fourth periods, we will switch ends. That means at halftime, we do not switch.
At halftime, it goes to whichever way the kicking team wants to kick. So if I defer to the second half, I'm going to want to, when we're coming out, I'm receiving. So now the team in the first half has the choice on which way they want to kick. So second and third periods can go in the same direction if that's the way they choose.
Okay.
All right, end of the period. We do have a 4-minute warning. We don't have a 2-minute warning, or the 2-minute timeout in college now has, but in games where we don't have a true scoreboard working, so your sub-varsity games, we're going to give a 4-minute warning to let the coaches know that, okay, there's 4 minutes left, and that's a scenario where the clock is being kept on the field by an official, not by an official scoreboard. So it's the only time you're really going to see that 4-minute warning. And that 4-minute warning is literally, we're going to blow the whistle. We're going to look to each sideline, say, coach, it's 4 minutes. And then if the clock is supposed to be running at that time, we're winding the clock at that point in time. So it's not a true timeout like you see in college and the NFL. Time expires during the down. The play continues, which this one, especially at the youth level, when the siren goes off, you see 11 kids just stop, like it's playing freeze tag. Like, no, keep going, especially if we got the ball.
Turn the sirens off.
Well, we've actually told places to turn their sirens off because of that. So yeah, it's few and far between. And end of this first and the third, we're switching end zones again. Possession, down, distance, they all do remain the same. Ball position remains the same. So if you are on the right hash when you come back out in the fourth quarter, you should still be on the right hash. You should not be flip flopped onto the left hash. All right, Daniel, here's one for you. I'll let you take this
Yeah,
one.
look at that. That's easy. Untimed down. So, what is an untimed down? A period shall be extended by an untimed down if one of the following occurred during a down in which time expires: a foul by either team and penalty is accepted; a double foul, meaning that they would be negated, right? But you still have to replay the down.
Correct.
Inadvertent whistle. Those are unfortunately happen.
We're
A
never
touchdown.
talking about that.
A touchdown scored. The try will follow. And I have a question. You answered it. Unless the end of the fourth quarter and points from the try won't affect the outcome. So I want to touch the last one first because in Oklahoma, our playoff seeding is based on how many points you beat people by.
Yep.
So you max it 15 up or down. So if you win by 15 or get beat by 15 or more, only the 15 points counts. But we have point differential. We got kicked out of the playoffs 3 years ago. Didn't make the playoffs because we lost too many games. But realistically, in a game, at the end of the game, we scored. The clock was out. If we needed to go for 2 to extend our point differential, and if I'm not mistaken, those 2 points would have put us into the playoff picture by point differential. But the ref waived it and said, nope, doesn't matter. So
now each state association does have the jurisdiction with that one. And by what you're describing to me, you should have played it. Should have played it through. So in my personal opinion, I would have let you played it through. But again, that's something that each individual officiating association, I'm sure, talks about, and it could be something that the state said, no, this is how we're going to rule on that scenario, unless they could literally say, unless it's only the fourth quarter and it's not going to affect the outcome of this particular game, it's
right.
not happening. Because unfortunately, you have had the injuries happen. And I'll give you an example with the untimed downs going back. We had a game that was over, and one of our deep wings threw a defensive pass interference penalty. It was a 16-point game. So even with that now extra untimed down, it wasn't going to change the outcome of the game. And the points don't make a difference for us here in New Jersey. But our guy saw it, and this was one of those ones where after the game we're like, hey man, that one, just keep your flag in your pocket at that point in time. Unless it's a flagrant injury type of scenario, we're not going to throw that one. If we have to, we'll talk to the coach, but the game's over. He threw the foul. Next play, they go for it again now, untimed down. Coach comes onto the field. This same official runs into a coach. 15-yard penalty. Now we got another untimed down. The third play, a kid gets injured. And our white hat was seething because these plays didn't need to happen.
Right.
There's no need for it. Yes, we had a foul, but it didn't need to happen. And because they were against one particular team, they were accepted. If the foul was declined, game's over. But in this scenario, they were accepted. So we had to continue going. And unfortunately, a kid got hurt in a game where the outcome was already decided and the flags were on the ground.
I'm a big extreme ownership guy, and I have to say that I still don't blame that ref trying to keep to the code of the game. The coach that decided to extend the game by 3 plays because he still can't make a difference but wants to run additional he's at fault. He could have just denied him.
Yeah.
So in a world where we hate on the zebras a little too much, obviously keep that in your pocket and just let the game expire, but also that coach should have known better as well. So,
yep. And the 15-yard penalty, we could have given a sideline warning for, and that would not have extended the game. So you can throw that sideline penalty, but because he's like, no, they made contact with me. He was, but
yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it was not a fun scenario to be in, and unfortunately, a kid ended up severely rolling his ankle and I think he missed the rest of the season, unfortunately. All right, so when it's not an untimed down, so I'll let you continue with this one here.
Thank you. Period will not be extended by untimed down if the defensive fouls during successful try or a field goal and the offense chooses to enforce on the kickoff. A foul by either team for unsportsmanlike or non-player fouls, so it's a dead ball foul. Obviously, the down is ended, so it would not create an untimed down. Loss of down penalty, that's a good one. It's a good one to know. Fouls enforced on subsequent kickoff, which is kind of
goes back to the first one.
Yep. And fouls for which enforcement by rule result in a safety.
So your holding penalty in the end zone.
That's a good one.
So that one, we're not going to come back out and have the kickoff from the 20 after that foul has occurred, and that has been enforced.
Simply, any fouls where enforcement is succeeding spot. Ooh, there's that word. I got it right this time.
Yes.
Loss of down and fouls which penalty is a safety.
So pretty simple stuff. Any questions on that before we move on?
No, I think that one's pretty simple.
All right, end of period. Referee ensures that no fouls occurred. There's no obvious timing error, no request for coach-referee conference, and no other irregularities. And you'll typically see in the picture here has the white hat, but here, my crew, it is the umpire supposed to hold the ball up just to declare that the period is over. I'm not going to lie to you. I do this at the end of the games sometimes.
Yeah, other times, end of the game is the only time I see it, or halftime and end of the game. I've seen it in both.
Yeah, I've done it a couple times depending upon the situation, but other times I'm just tossing the ball to the center and say, hey, take this with you, kid. We don't need it anymore. All right, our game clock now. So here we go. Here's going to be some fun ones. So starting the clock for a period. Now our 12 minutes are on the clock. The clock is going to start when the kick is touched by R. It says here, other than first touching by K, but basically when it is touched by R. So this one is a big one because on an onside kick, if the ball gets kicked out of bounds or the ball is never touched by R and K recovers the onside kick beyond the 10 yards where they legally get it and they dive on it, there should still be 12 minutes on that clock. Maybe a second will come off trying to get the scrum, but if anything, that clock shouldn't start until it is touched by R. Now, if it is an onside kick and an R player hits it and now fumbles around, doesn't get it cleanly, and now K gets going with it, you're going to have a second or two wind from that. But technically, it should just be at 12 minutes if K just recovers that grounded ball that's gone past 10 yards. Everywhere else, when the ball is legally snapped, is going to start your game clock. So the status of the clock now, it's going to be running, counting down. We're 12 minutes going down to 0. A stopped clock is going to start at the snap. You're going to see the officials. We give a snap like this to remind each other that we're going on the snap. And it helps signal up to the press box. So these are our nonverbal signals that we're giving to each other on the snap so that they know clock has been stopped. We're given the kill sign to stop it if it needs to be stopped. And then on a snap, or I'm going like this to the referee, and he's going to give a silent wind. So we're stopping the clock, starting on the ready for play signal, which is the wind of the arm, and starting when it is touched on the next free kick, again by R. Daniel, questions on that?
No, y'all have a clock operator that's part of your crew, correct?
We do, yes.
Yeah. So down here in the South, I say in Oklahoma. I say in the South. I don't know if I'm in the South, honestly. In Oklahoma, we for sure, it's just a school person. Like, it's probably been kids at some point. Like, hey, sit there and run that clock. Whoever they can get to sit in the seat and press the buttons. So it's cool that you have, a thing, a sign. And I bet if our guys would pass that on the booth, then the adults that run the clock at least would be able to recognize it and use that. But that's a good one.
Yeah, and these signals come from before we had the O to O's. So if our deep wing had a runner go out of bounds on a deep pass, the head referee, he's watching the quarterback. He doesn't know that the ball is A, completed, B, that he was out of bounds. Okay, now he's sprinting downfield. My job as an umpire is to relay, hey, first down, first down, first down, on the snap, on the snap. So I'm giving it to our deep wing, had him out of bounds because we're going to kill it on a first down too, but he had him out of bounds. So he's going to give to me, snap, Mike, snap, snap. And now I'm relaying it to our head referee who's going to come down and give that first down signal. And he's not then going to follow it up with a wind because now we're on the snap. So this is where all of our communication comes from.
I love it. It's great.
So again, ways the clock is going to start. Your free kick when the ball is touched by R. Okay, and we refer to this as being legally touched. So it's not illegally touched if it's touched by K, but legally touched by R. And on your scrimmage down, where you have your ready for play whistle, wind by the referee, and we now have a silent wind. There's not as many whistles as there was 4 or 5 years ago. We're not blowing a whistle on every play to start the clock. You got a lot of silent winds. And then the snap. So in most cases, the way the clock is going to start will be determined by the reason the clock was stopped. And that one's going to lead on to our next slide right here. Daniel, you want to take when the clock stops?
I do. When does the clock stop? 3-4-4. The down ends after a foul. So this would be, obviously a holding or something during. Officials' timeout includes a lot of things, and thankfully. We've seen some really good ones. Hey, this cat's just trying to tie his shoes. I've got that guy needs to get his shoulder pad out, back into his sleeve, whatever. Charged or TV radio timeout. Not a thing in a lot of our small schools, but those big ones, man, they still have TV and radio timeouts, which are pretty crazy. A period ends, of course. The ball is out of bounds. Legal or illegal forward pass is incomplete. Score or touchback occurs. A fair catch is made. An inadvertent whistle. Airborne receiver is carried out of bounds. Oh, there's that conversation again.
Yeah.
Because that's still an incomplete pass, right? So it's redundant.
Or it could be the forward progress with the catch. Because in this one, he's carried out of bounds after a catch. Doesn't say if the ball was squeezed or not, but we're going to move on from that one. So again, most of these are pretty self-explanatory. Your official's timeout is one that any one of our officials can call. It's not just our head referee, like you talked about. It could be for an equipment, a shoelace, different things like that. But that one's going to be a quick, all right, stop the clock. All right, now we're winding it. We're going right away. Any type of incomplete pass. Doesn't matter if it's legal or illegal. If it's incomplete, it's incomplete. The clock's going to stop. And this is actually going to be determining on when we have some type of penalty and we are now marking off that penalty, when we're going to be restarting the clock, we need to know how did the previous play end. If the play ended with a run inbounds, we're typically going to be winding the clock after we've marked off that penalty. If the play ended because of a player going out of bounds or the play ended on an incomplete pass, we're going on the snap now because the clock has been stopped because of that incomplete pass. So we have to know, and we're always reminding each other of, again, that signal after the head referee is giving the signals and I'm walking off along with my short wings and we're walking off the yardage for a penalty. He's always going to look at me and I'm going to be like, snap, snap, snap. So we're always communicating with that. So here it is, how we decide when the clock starts. When it is legally touched on a free kick, snap, ready for play, minor or minor clock stoppages. Minor is going to be your ready for play whistle or silent whistle. That's going to be your equipment timeout type of thing. And here we just got a summary. So the people that are out there that are the visual learners, you got two summaries here on what a major clock stoppage is, what a minor clock stoppage is, but your major ones were always going to be coming back on the snap. Your minor ones is going to be on the officials ready for play. So to give more of an example of the minor ones, first down, that's a minor one. We stop the clock and then we wind it. A measurement for a first down, we're going to stop the clock because now that's going to basically be an official's timeout. And then if the play ended inbounds, we're winding it. To dry or change a game ball, we're going to usually do that as quickly as possible. your heat, your injury. We're going to come back to coach and referee conference because that one deals with timeouts also. So I want to come
Okay.
back with that one. So there's a couple of different things. And again, your 4-minute warning when we don't have that clock. And on the bottom, you see a major stop always trumps a minor stop. If both happens, the major one wins. The clock will restart on the snap. So just always look for those things and look to see what the referee signaling is going on so that all the coaches are on the right page with everything. And there's a simplified version of it, incomplete, out of bounds, scores, touchback, different things like that. And then your first down penalties, injuries. So pretty easy stuff there. Some additional comments on 3-4. We've already hit on the first one. Clock does not start on first touching by K. The referees can order the game or play clock to start or stop if the team attempts to conserve or consume time illegally. So you're on offense, Daniel. You take a delay game penalty because you want to kill the clock. Well, the previous play ended with a run inbounds, so the clock is going to then wind after we mark off that 5 yards. You take another delay game penalty. We now have the right to say, we're stopping the clock here. So
this is the Belichick rule, right? Because Bill Belichick was the king of, and so the NFL put in 2 of the same penalty.
correct.
So what did he do? Well, then he delay a game, 12 men in the huddle, false start, delay of game, right? So he found ways around it. So I have to ask for us that are weaponizing the rule book, where's the line? Can I Belichick it and do a whole bunch of different stuff to?
If we deem that it is being done purposely to conserve or consume time, we could stop it. And that is just basically, it could be after 1. And our next one now, any foul committed in the last 2 minutes of either half results in the offended team having the option to start the clock on the snap. And that's where we get it kind of takes away that option from happening. Now, we can rule that the clock will start on the snap. We can't rule that we want to start the clock now. So if it was a penalty and it was off of an incomplete pass, you as the offended team don't have the option to say, well, now we want the clock to run. When it stopped, it stopped. But in a scenario like this, if it's supposed to run, you can have the option of stopping it.
Perfect.
And the last one is the referee has the authority to correct obvious timing errors in the game prior to the second live ball error occurring in the play clock. This is where we're hoping not to have teenagers up in the booth running the play clock or running the scoreboard clock, because you coaches are looking at that stuff. I mean, time and score are 2 of the biggest factors in how a game is being called, both on a team side. What plays you're calling, what defense you're calling is going to be dictated on how much time is left and what the score of the game is. And for us, throwing the flags, the time and score, we want to know those things too, because we want to, well, if the game's getting out of hand, we may tuck that flag a little bit deeper into the pocket. All right. Here's one. Here's an easy one for you again. Timeouts.
Yeah, I can handle timeouts and intermissions. Rule 3-5. 3 charged team timeouts per half. Unused timeouts do not carry over. Call to the second half or overtime. Overtime, you get a new one, right? Everyone gets one in overtime, regardless of how many you had left. It could be called by a player, the head coach, or a designee during a dead ball period. Designated
player.
Designated player or coach, right? A head coach can designate someone else to do it.
Yes.
Team timeouts are 1 minute long. The warning whistle blows at 45 seconds. Ready for play within 5 seconds after the end of timeout within reason. Penalty decisions must be made before granting a timeout. Can't call timeout to decide whether to accept or decline a penalty. So how much time do I have pick to accept or decline a penalty. What's the rule say about that, Mike?
That one we don't have a specific time frame other than our play clock. So your 25-second, your 40-second clock typically is supposed to start. The 40-second clock specifically is going to start after the end of the previous play. Well, now we got a stoppage for a foul, for a penalty. We're going to look to the sideline, and we want to do that as quickly as we can. So if you're hemming and hawing, we're going to kind of be yelling at you. Coach, we need a decision. Coach, we need a decision. I've never seen, because the clock is stopped in this scenario, I've never seen anybody really taking too much time. But again, if you're going to try to use it as a fourth timeout to have your team come to the sideline, well, we're going to start winding the clock at that point in time. If we have to, we can adjudicate it our own way and basically say, oh, they're declining it, we're moving on. So gotcha. I've never seen it get to that one, but we want to have that decision made before the timeout is granted, because we've had coaches, I'm going to decline that penalty, but we're going to take a timeout. And then all of a sudden, you want to know that I've changed my mind. I want to take that holding penalty. And we're like, yeah, for sure. Sorry, coach. Can't do that now. All right. So consecutive timeouts in high school is allowed. So if you want to use all three of your timeouts, go for it. Timeout, come out in an offensive formation and see what the defense is and call another timeout, go for it. Come back out, call your third one, go for it. So probably not the greatest coaching scenario to really happen, but in other sports and in other levels, you can't do consecutive. You come out of that timeout, you got to be ready to play ball. So
that's I don't know why you would do that unless you're just trying to get your backup quarterback warm after an injury or something, right?
Yeah, not really sure, but I've seen the two consecutives. I've never really seen the three, but actually, I think I have when I was coaching. I think our head coach did burn all three once. I know definitely two. As officials, we want to notify the coaches, and it's just the captains here. We're going to the coaches after each timeout. Again, we have the headsets now. We have our short wings should be meandering around the huddles on each sidelines. They don't have to necessarily be in the huddle. We don't want to be that nosy, but we're all echoing it. Hey, they've got two. Blue's got two. Green's got three, or white's got three, I should say, two different colors. And we're echoing it, and then we're telling the coaches, Coach, that's your first one. You got two more left. They've got three left. So we're always trying to remind everybody what the scenario is. And after all timeouts have been used, the teams can still request a timeout for an injury, to repair a player's equipment without delay or assistance from team attendants, or to review a misapplication of rules. And that one I want to talk about. Daniel, you sound like you had a question there.
Nope. Good.
So situations where the timeouts could be charged without one being called. Repairing faulty equipment. Okay. Requires assistance of team attendants, delays the ready for play by more than 25 seconds. Basically, if your helmet breaks, we're going to probably call a timeout, but we're most likely going to have that player subbed out unless it can be a super quick repair. If it's going to be longer than that, we'll stop the clock, send that player off, and then we're going to wind the clock from there. The coach ref conference requested for potential misapplication of the rule. If the ruling, so we called a pass interference penalty, use that one, and you don't, as the head coach, you don't agree with it, and you want to talk to our referee and get an explanation on how that penalty is being marked off, whatever it may be, because in college, sometimes it's going the full 15 yards. In high school, it's half the distance, whatever the scenario may be. And as we're in discussion, I find out, Coach, you are correct. We misapplied that rule. You just got a free timeout in that scenario. But if I'm over there talking to you and I'm like, Coach, this is what happened, and now we're there for an extended period of time, now you're being charged with a timeout. So what we kind of do recommend, take your timeout. If you want to take your timeout and then discuss it with the officials, you got it. And now you, as the head coach, can be talking it over with the official, have your OC or DC talking with the players, getting everything in line for them. And if we find out that even after you've used your timeout, now I find out, coach, you're right, I misapplied that, we're going to waive off your timeout. So we're going to give it back to you in that scenario. Other sidelines not going to be too happy with A, the fact that we just changed our decision, and B, you're getting your timeout back. But we do have the right to give it back to you if we misapplied the rules. So, and again, this is the human aspect.
Rules are the rules, right?
Yep. Fantastic background noise right there, Daniel.
I didn't know if it would come through or not.
Yes, it
here
did.
we are.
So an official's timeout, we got our measurements for first down declared. Again, kind of repeating ourselves here, but there's a lot of different things here. And again, depending upon what ended the previous play is what we're going to do to restart the clock out of an official's timeout. So if it's especially a heat scenario, when we come out of that heat scenario, we're like, all right, coach, we're on the ready for play. We're winding the clock and we're giving everybody an extra water break, and then we're going to wind the clock. So that's what an official's timeout. Injury and equipment. So the injury one, Daniel, have you seen the flops happening?
Man, they're pretty bad. I'm anxious as a college football fan. I'm anxious to see how the new rules affect that this year.
Yeah,
I think it's always neat when a coach becomes the heel, to use an old wrestling term, right? Lane Kiffin down at Mississippi, Ole Miss decides that he's going to be the heel for a few years and super abuse this rule so we can get rid of it. I think that's pretty funny. You hate it in high school, but I know it happens. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah. You hate that the sportsmanship is ruined at such a low level, but it absolutely happens. And when you see two players go down with the same injury at the same time by accident, you know what I mean? Like, it stinks, but it is what it is. And it's very strategic. Like, if you need it, you need it.
And unfortunately for us, we're dealing with kids. And
yeah,
there are not many of us, meaning the referees, the officials, that are doctors. And it's not our jurisdiction to be doctors, to be trainers, to diagnose if this player is faking it or not. But some of the ones that are super, super obvious were like, coach, you just burned a timeout or you just got a delay game penalty. Very, very uncommon. I've seen it happen once. And I mean, this kid, if he got an Emmy for his acting, he would have had it taken away from him. It was that bad. Like, it was like, come on, kid. Like, he looked like somebody had a sniper up in the press box. So
there you go.
So I want to talk about this last little bullet point here. A charged timeout cannot buy a player back in. Do you know what we mean by that? So if your player gets injured or your player has to be taken out of the game because of an equipment malfunction or because they're wearing illegal equipment, you cannot burn a timeout and have that player come back in. When we've sent them out because they had to go out for a play, they're out for a play. Unless halftime or an intermission between overtime periods, that will allow the player to come back in. So even at the end of quarters, that player's got to sit out there one play.
That's a good one to know. We talked earlier about, like, you get confused with the NCAA and the NFL rules where you can 100% do that.
Yep.
So it's a good one to know, especially about the overtime periods, because they are, I don't know what everybody's rules are, but it seems like those are very, very short period. I think we just line up on the 10 or 25 or something now, right? Like,
so overtime periods are different in actual every state. So it all depends on what the state association. We're here in New Jersey. We're kind of going by the college rule of going from the 25. But I know college just changed their overtime rules the past year on the second and third overtimes. They're going from the 2 or the 3 yard line or something like that.
Right, just 2-point conversions.
Yeah, here in New Jersey, we're going from the 25, but we're cutting it at 3 overtimes. If the game is still tied after the third overtime, we got ourselves a tie game. But it's mandated to go for 2. So, yeah, each state association is going to be a little bit different with the overtime rules. All right, so Daniel, we kind of talked about this one in our definitions here with our conferences. Outside the 9 yards, inside the 9 yards, only one coach can be between the or inside. Outside those numbers, you basically can have your whole sideline that's there. So that's going to be on a timeout. Um, I've seen, unfortunately, this is where it gets a little egregious with the offensive coordinator typically coming out onto the field for their play call. And because they don't want the people in the press box seeing them, they're bringing 4 players out with them to the numbers to try to blind the press box. That's not good. That is not allowed. Everybody needs to be on the sideline at that one. But typically, we're going to give a little bit of leniency for a coach making their call to come out into the field, but they got to then clear the sideline. But now these are true conferences, authorized team conference, outside the 9s or inside the 9s. And I don't think anybody goes inside the 9s anymore. Typically, everyone's coming to the coaches on the sidelines.
For sure.
So your authorized conferences, timeouts, official timeouts, TV, radio, between periods, scores. And again, that one we want to try to keep it to a minute. The TV, radio one, none of us have control because that's money now. So the money has control. So we're at the mercy.
The money wins.
We're at the mercy of that one individual standing on a far end zone with an orange glove on their hand across their body saying, nope, we're still at a commercial. So keep milking it. So those are going to be your authorized conference times. All right, our play clock. This is now standard, and we're starting to see it more and more with the actual clocks being put into play at the schools. Not as much as we want, but it is becoming a little bit more predominant. So your 25-second and 40-second play clocks. Daniel, do you know the differences and when they're going to happen?
This is one of those places that I always get so upset during a game when I'm in the booth and we're trying to either we need time to do some stuff or we're trying to end the game and I don't know. It never seems to go the way I want. You're going to explain it and I haven't even read the screen yet, which my understanding is like if there's a penalty or some type of ref stoppage, it's 40, regular down, it's 25. And that may be too simple.
So let me go to the other one here. So your 25-second one is going to start on your ready for play signal by a referee prior to a try. So even on an extra point, there is going to be a 25-second clock. So you need to get your extra point team out there. Starting of your overtime series, following inadvertent whistle. I mumbled that one. I don't want to say that one. Following a charge timeout, following officials timeout, following a legal kick, or following a stoppage of play by the referee for any other reason. So that's your 25-second clock. Your 40-second clock starts when the ball is declared dead by the game official on all other situations. You're getting 40 seconds on that one. So basically, unless there is something that we are truly stopping the clock for, coming out of a timeout, different things like that, it's going to be 40 seconds. So anticipate that 40-second clock. And just be ready to rock and roll with it. And I could tell you in the middle of the game, in the first quarter, that 40-second clock's probably going to be 41, 42 seconds. And the way that we are actually trained to do it is, even if you do have a clock at the end zone, is I'm waiting to see that clock hit 0, and then I'm bringing my finger up to the whistle up to my mouth and blowing that whistle. I'm not keeping the whistle in my mouth. And as soon as that hits 0, killing it. If the snap is imminent, we're going to let the play get off. We want to let the play get off. Now, when it's coming to the end of the game, and like you're talking about where one team needs to conserve time, we are reminding each other again, this is where our O to O, and we're telling the deep guy that has it, hey, be true with your clock now. Be true with your play clock here. Give them the 25 seconds. Give them the 40 seconds. No more, no less. Like, be true with it for both sides. Because we've had coaches on the sidelines with a stopwatch. Oh, there we go. There we go. Like, coach, come on. We're giving the same clock for both teams. And in a tight game, it's going to be a tighter clock. So you're going to get the tight clock when needed. All right.
Just to clarify, Oh, well, it might be right here.
Yes,
Just
sir. So
standard.
I'll let you read this one.
Perfect. First down, new series for Team A will always be 40 seconds unless something else happens that causes a 25 measurement, injury, etc. Not to be confused with Team K getting a new series after a legal kick. Clock stoppages committed by Team B that result in a 40-second play clock, a helmet off, equipment repair, a foul, an injury, any of those by the defense. And then you're thinking,
Hefid.
Hefid? Hefid.
Yeah, I don't get it myself either. An easier one that we have later on is we talk about spit when a running clock stops on a score, penalty, injury, or a timeout. So we try to make another acronym for this scenario of HEFID. For some reason, it's stuck.
Let's
So
go.
did that answer the question that you were thinking of?
Yeah, just normal play-by-play. I go out, I run the ball, I get tackled, I stand up, I go to the huddle. I've got 40 seconds.
Correct. And it's not from when the ball is spotted. It's from when that player was tackled. So,
right.
and this is why you see the short wings are in charge of getting the spot. When the play ends, you're going to typically see them put one hand in the air, not only signifying that, hey, I got the spot so that the other sideline sees that. But now if the play clock is being held from up top or the deep wing is doing it, that's when they're going to start their 40 seconds. So
okay.
It's our hand signal to let it know when it's happening.
I feel like even knowing the rules, I'm just going to be watching it not get done correctly this year. It just never seems to be consistent. So,
well, I'm going to tell you now. When you start watching games, now that you're diving into the rules, you're going to watch the game differently too. You're going to start watching the officials at times and not even realize what happened in the play. And it's like, oh crap, I missed that one. Excellent. All right, so our ready for play, our RFP that Daniel has learned about. The ball is ready for play when it's been placed. The referee marks it with a whistle, 25 seconds, or placed by an official, and they move out of the position. That's going to be your 40-second. We're not going to blow a whistle on that one. And the ball does not necessarily have to be ready for play when the play clock is running, although it is absolutely should be ready for play when there's 25 seconds remaining. So that's one where we're hustling our butts off as a good officiating crew. We're making sure, get it spotted, get it going, and move out of the way. Delay of game, fun one. What do you got for me here?
yep, action or inaction which prevents promptness and putting the ball in play. Failure to snap or free kick prior to expiration of play clock. So delay a game due to play clock violation, shot clock violation.
Yes.
Unnecessarily carrying the ball after it's dead. That makes sense. Snapping or free kicking the ball before it's ready for play. Obviously, because now the ball is moved and we got to respot it. Failure to unpile from an opponent in a timely manner. That one's a little interesting. I guess
Yeah.
it's a great one for refs just trying to keep a game moving, right? Coach referee conference requested after all charged timeouts are used.
So that scenario that I gave you before, where you want to challenge one of my possible misapplications of a rule, if it comes back that I was correct, you're now getting hit with a 5-yard penalty for a delay game.
And then any other conduct which unduly prolongs the game. That coach referee conference, like I understand it. I understand from a general view. I don't. That would be a tough one to swallow. If I need to talk to you, number one, I'm not going to abuse it.
Mm-hmm.
But if I need to have a conversation, it's odd that I would get a delay a game or be charged a timeout.
And again, this goes upon the communication that you are having with the officiating crew and that they're having with you. Again, in turn, both directions. If you're treating us professionally and your staff is treating us professionally, again, we understand the emotions of the game. But if you're just absolutely berating us and stuff like that, then yeah, you might expect to get that 5-yard penalty coming out. But if you're like, Mike, can I just get an explanation? What's going on? I'm confused by that one. Typically, we're gonna give you the explanation. Now, sometimes you might not get it right then and there. You might not get it immediately after that play to keep the flow going if it's not something that is like super egregious to the play. But on a timeout, on any type of score, we're going to come over and we're going to talk with you and say, hey, this is what we had. This is why we did it. And this is why we didn't come over right away, because we were right. Like we were certain on it. Like it wasn't anything
Right.
that was to be disagreed with, but we'll explain it. So you will get that conference. Or now with the headsets, you could possibly get the explanation that you need from the short wing, getting the explanation from the referee and just kind of relaying it to you. And now you see in the NFL now that extra referee that is on the sidelines, especially in the playoffs, they actually have another official that's not even in uniform that is there to help the coaches with any type of rules question that they may have during the game, so that they're keeping the flow of the game going quicker.
That's really neat.
Yeah, they're doing a really good job with that. So, other delays, which are unlikely, a team shall play within 2 minutes after being ordered to do so by the referee. So, Daniel, you said you refused to come out of the locker room. 2 minutes, we can rule for a forfeiture of the game. Game management is responsible for clearing the field of play and the end zones at the beginning of each half so that we can play the game. So, your band director still has the pyrotechnics going off in the end zone. We can hit a delay game penalty. Again, these both are very, very, very doubtful to ever happen. But in extreme cases, they are there and they are in the rule book that we can deem it a forfeit, but don't want to. We want the kids playing football.
Yeah.
One other one I did want to go back to that you mentioned before with the delay of game, failure to umpile from the opponent in a timely manner. This one is going to be your 2 minute drill where you're on defense and you're holding on to the leg and you're slow getting off the pile because you were trying to keep that runner down for that extra second to keep the clock running, especially if they're inbounds. So that's the one where we want to get the kids off and up because everybody is moving quickly now. So we can, and again, it's going to be egregious for us to throw the flag on that scenario. But if we know that the kid is just literally lying on top and doing the fat man flop on top of the small, skinny running back, yeah, we may have to hit you for that one. So Daniel, that comes to the conclusion of Rule 3.
It's a good one. Less to weaponize, but some, a few things that I think it's important to know. That 40 and 25 second clock, that will forever, I feel like, be the most mismanaged. I need to watch it a lot heavier this year and just see when is it being used correctly, when's it a little chaotic.
Yeah, and like I said, for the most part, you're not even going to pay attention to it in the middle of the game. It's going to be at the end of the halves when you got a 2 minute scenario
100%.
one team, one way or the other, offensively or defensively. You don't want them getting extra time when they don't deserve extra time, and you don't want to be cheated of the time. So just talk with your officials and let them know, and don't sit there on the sideline with a stopwatch and say, see, look what I have, or doing the Giannis Antetokounmpo free throw where you're counting down for us. We don't need that. We've got a clock. We've got a watch. But yeah, definitely be mindful of it and say, hey, listen, they're taking a long time. So
love it. It's good stuff, Mike. Appreciate you once again for letting me come on and do the rules with you, man. This is a lot of fun. I'm learning a ton. I hope that other coaches and refs are joining in. I hope coaches are. And of course, all the refs got to redo this stuff. Y'all do a refresher, I'm sure, every year. So
every year, yep. So that's what I'm hopefully they're listening. I got a comment here from Daniel that says, "Love the podcast. Great refresher before spring ball starts." So he's getting it out there. So
love it.
Keep it up. Keep listening. Hit those likes. Hit those subscribes, ladies and gents. Truly appreciate you once again, Daniel, for taking the time out and today for adjusting because Mother Nature has been beating me up lately with my interweb here. So Daniel adjusted his schedule to come on today. So again, truly appreciate it. But now it's time to say goodbye and for me to go watch the little Yankees Mets baseball and Knicks Boston basketball. I got a fun night of sports ahead.
Love that dirty water.
There's going to be a little bit of those in there too.
Go Red Sox.
No.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, buddy. Have a good night and take care all.